The battle had ended before it even truly began. Earth's defense fleets, proud and determined, had been reduced to burning wrecks drifting in the void. The Dominion's warships, massive and unstoppable, had carved through them like blades through paper. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The Galactic Dominion, the rulers of 1,000 worlds, had shown humanity its place, and the galaxy had laughed. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed any species that dared resist. Humanity had fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against overwhelming firepower. The last remnants of Earth's fleet had been scattered, some escaping into deep space, others vaporized before they could even flee. The survivors on the planet looked up at the darkened skies, where Dominion warships now loomed like gods, casting their shadows over the ruined cities. Earth, once filled with life and noise, had fallen into a dreadful silence. The Dominion didn't see humanity as a threat anymore. Their admirals and commanders moved on to other battles, leaving behind only a handful of occupation forces. To them, Earth was finished. The remaining humans, broken and leaderless, would either serve as workers or slowly fade into history. The war had ended. The Dominion had won. Or so they thought. Far beyond the wreckage of Earth's fleets, past the reach of Dominion patrols, something stirred in the cold void of space. Deep within an asteroid field, hidden from all sensors, a signal pulsed, a sound that should not have existed. It was weak at first, barely more than a whisper against the endless static of space. But then it grew. The signal traveled through forgotten channels, reaching old warships that had gone dark. It echoed through abandoned stations, touching the minds of those who had sworn never to stop fighting. To the Dominion, it was just another meaningless transmission lost in the vastness of space. But to humanity, it was something far greater. It was a call, a reminder, a promise. On a desolate moon orbiting a dead star, Admiral Elias Voss stood inside a dark command room, his tired eyes locked onto the flickering screen before him. The signal had reached them. He could feel the tension in the room, the quiet disbelief of the officers around him. For so long they had hidden, watching the Dominion erase their homeworld from history. They had waited, unsure if they were the last ones left. But now, after all this time, they knew. Earth had not given up. Someone down there was still fighting. Voss turned to his second-in-command, a sharp-eyed woman named Captain Lin. "They think we're finished," he said, his voice steady. "They think we're beaten." Lin gave a slow nod. "Then we remind them who we are." The Dominion had made a mistake. They had assumed humanity had no fight left. They had assumed that no one had survived to strike back. But hidden in the asteroid field, shielded from all detection, lay something the galaxy had never seen before. A fleet, not just any fleet. Dreadnoughts, warships unlike anything that had ever existed. For years, the last remnants of humanity's greatest minds had worked in secret, building something new. These ships were larger, stronger, faster than anything the Dominion had ever faced. They carried weapons designed to shatter fleets in an instant, armor that could withstand the worst of the enemy's firepower. They were not ships of defense. They were ships of vengeance. But they were not ready. Not yet. The Dreadnought fleet was still incomplete, its systems untested. They needed more time. And that meant someone had to keep the Dominion's attention away from them. Someone had to make the first move. Back on Earth, within the ruins of an old military outpost, a lone resistance fighter knelt beside an old flickering console. His name was Rake, a soldier who had once fought in humanity's last stand and lived to see his world burn. He had spent months hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. Now he had sent the signal. Now he was ready to strike. The Dominion had taken everything from him, his family, his home, his future, but they had also given him something in return, a reason to fight. Outside, the night was quiet, the air thick with the weight of defeat. Dominion patrols moved through the ruined streets, their alien eyes scanning for any sign of resistance. They never looked up. They never listened. They never expected an attack. That was their mistake. Rake took a deep breath, gripping the detonator in his hands. In the distance, an enemy supply depot stood, filled with weapons, fuel, and the technology of the conquerors. It was heavily guarded, protected by energy shields and automated turrets. It was supposed to be untouchable. But Rake wasn't alone. Hidden across the city, in the shattered remains of a once thriving civilization, others waited. They had no great ships, no powerful weapons, but they had a plan. And tonight, they would remind the galaxy that Earth still had fight left in it. With a single press of a button, the silence of the night was shattered. Explosions erupted from the depot, fire and smoke rising into the sky. The ground trembled as Dominion soldiers scrambled in confusion. Gunfire echoed through the streets as hidden fighters emerged from the ruins, striking hard and fast before vanishing again. It was not a battle to win. It was a message, a sound louder than any words. And in the depths of space, aboard a hidden dreadnought, Admiral Voss watched the chaos unfold on his screen. A slow smile formed on his face. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's defeat, but they wouldn't be laughing for long. 2 seconds. The Dominion believed Earth was pacified. The occupation forces that remained were nothing more than enforcers, ensuring humanity never rose again. The fleets had moved on, conquering new worlds, expanding their empire, secure in the knowledge that the humans had been broken. They were wrong. The explosions in the ruined city were just the beginning. Across Earth, in hidden bunkers and collapsed buildings, resistance cells emerged like ghosts from the past. Small, scattered groups of survivors, once too afraid to fight, saw the flames rise and knew it was time. The signal had reached them, a simple message buried deep in old military channels. It was not a call for surrender. It was a call for war. The Dominion soldiers reacted with ruthless efficiency, their tall, armored forms moving through the streets with energy weapons raised. They fired at the shadows, their glowing visors scanning for movement. But the humans knew their home better than any alien invader. They struck hard and fast, vanishing before the enemy could retaliate. They were not fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for vengeance. Rake ran through the burning streets, his pulse pounding. He ducked behind a crumbling wall as Dominion soldiers stormed past, barking orders in their guttural language. His breathing was steady, his grip on his rifle firm. He had waited for this moment for too long. He wasn't alone. The resistance had been small before, nothing more than scattered fighters with no hope of victory. But now they had something to fight for. Now they had a purpose. The Dominion tried to contain the chaos, sending squads to crush the uprising before it spread. They failed. More explosions rocked the city. Power grids collapsed. Their supply lines burned. The humans weren't attacking for victory. They were attacking to create fear, to send a message. And the message reached beyond Earth. Far from the occupied planet, in the depths of an asteroid field, Admiral Elias Voss watched the screens aboard his command ship. The bridge of the HFY Revenant was silent except for the soft hum of machinery and the quiet murmurs of officers monitoring the situation. The signal had been sent. The resistance had made its move. Now it was time for them to do the same. Voss leaned forward, his sharp eyes scanning the battle reports. He saw the patterns forming. The Dominion was reacting exactly as he had predicted. They were sending reinforcements, but only small detachments. Their main fleets were too far away, too distracted by their own wars. That was their weakness. That was humanity's opening. He turned to Captain Lin, who stood beside him, arms crossed, watching the same screens. "They won't take this seriously until it's too late," she said. Voss nodded. "Then let's make sure they never get the chance." He activated the ship's communications. Across the hidden fleet, thousands of human soldiers and officers stood ready, waiting for the order they had trained for, the moment they had dreamed of. Voss took a breath. "This is Admiral Voss," he said, his voice calm, steady, unshaken. For too long we have waited. For too long we have hidden in the dark, watching our world suffer. No more. Earth is not lost. Humanity is not finished. We strike now. Aboard every ship in the secret fleet, lights flickered to life. Massive engines powered up, weapon systems came online, and targeting computers locked onto their first objectives. The Dreadnought fleet was waking up. The Dominion had seen human warships before. They had fought and destroyed Earth's fleets in a single day. But they had never seen what was coming now. These were not old ships salvaged from past wars. These were monsters, warships larger and more powerful than anything the Dominion had ever faced. They had been built in secret, designed to outmatch anything in the galaxy. And now, they would be unleashed. The HFY Revenant was the first to move, its massive hull emerging from the asteroid belt like a predator from the deep. It was followed by more, a dozen, then 24, then an entire fleet of dreadnoughts, each bristling with weapons designed for one purpose: to tear the Dominion apart. The fleet moved in silence, gliding through the void like specters of vengeance. They had one target: the Dominion's closest military outpost, a fortress station orbiting a barren moon. It was heavily defended, shielded by powerful weapons, and home to thousands of Dominion troops. But the humans weren't planning to fight fair. Voss watched the countdown tick to 0. Then, with a single word, he unleashed humanity's fury. Fire. The first shot came from the HFY Revenant, a beam of pure energy condensed into a single, unstoppable spear of destruction. It lanced through the void, striking the Dominion station before their sensors even registered the attack. The shields buckled, then shattered. Then the rest of the fleet fired. Explosions ripped through the station. Enemy ships scrambled to respond, but it was already over. The dreadnoughts tore through them, obliterating anything in their path. The battle was over in minutes. For the first time since Earth's fall, the Dominion had suffered a true defeat. And this was only the beginning. The Dominion had always considered itself unstoppable. Its fleets had conquered countless worlds, its rule stretching across the stars. When Earth fell, it was nothing more than another victory, another species crushed beneath their rule. The galaxy had watched and laughed. Humanity had been foolish to resist. But the laughter was fading. News of the destruction of Outpost Carrick 9 spread quickly, sending shockwaves through the Dominion's command networks. A fortress station, obliterated in minutes. Elite Dominion warships, wiped from existence. Survivors spoke of monstrous human vessels, massive dreadnoughts with weapons that defied reason. The Dominion had crushed Earth, yet somehow humanity had returned, stronger than before. And they were angry. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the HFY Revenant, his sharp eyes locked on the display before him. The wreckage of Carrick 9 still drifted through space, a silent testament to what had just happened. Around him, the dreadnought fleet moved with quiet purpose, already preparing for their next strike. "We don't stop," Voss said, his voice calm, unwavering. "The Dominion is slow. It doesn't take us seriously yet. That's our advantage." Captain Lynn nodded, her gaze equally focused. "Where do we hit next?" Voss turned to his officers. "Send the order. We take the Utheri shipyards next." Murmurs of approval spread through the bridge crew. The Utheri shipyards were one of the Dominion's primary construction hubs. Taking them out would cripple their ability to reinforce their fleets. But more than that, it would send a message. Humanity was not just fighting back. Humanity was winning. The Dominion was slow to react. Their fleets were scattered across the stars, spread thin by years of expansion and overconfidence. By the time the Command Council realized the full scale of the attack, it was already too late. The dreadnought fleet had arrived at Utheri. The shipyards were enormous, orbiting a gas giant in a carefully protected system. Dozens of half-built warships hung in the void, surrounded by support stations and defensive platforms. It was a fortress, heavily guarded, its defenses designed to repel full-scale invasions. But it had never faced anything like this. The attack came without warning. The first Dominion ships exploded before their alarms could even sound. Human dreadnoughts emerged from the darkness, weapons blazing, tearing through defenses with ruthless efficiency. Plasma lances punched through metal like paper. Railgun slugs shattered hulls in an instant. The Dominion defenders fought back, but they were outmatched. They had never seen warships like these. The HSS Revenant led the charge, breaking through the station's perimeter. Boarding pods launched, slamming into the shipyard structures, releasing waves of human marines. They moved with precision, cutting down Dominion soldiers, seizing control of the automated construction systems. Captain Lin's voice crackled through the comms. "Admiral, we have control of the primary reactors. We can scuttle the entire facility." Voss stood in silence for a moment, then shook his head. "No, we don't destroy it. We take it." Lin paused, then smiled. "Understood." The battle was over within the hour. The Ytheri shipyards, once a proud symbol of Dominion power, now flew human banners. The first victory had been a shock. This was something more. This was a reckoning. The Dominion's response was slow, confused. Panic spread through the ranks. Humanity had been defeated, yet here they were, striking at the heart of the Empire. Rumors spread like wildfire. The laughing voices that had once mocked Earth's defeat were now filled with uncertainty. And deep in the Dominion's capital, the High Command finally realized the truth. Humanity had not been broken. Humanity had been waiting. And now, the war had only just begun. The Dominion's pride was shattered. Earth was supposed to be a footnote in their history, a minor species that had foolishly resisted and been crushed. But now, the galaxy whispered a different story. A secret fleet had risen from the shadows. The Ytheri shipyards, one of the Dominion's most crucial assets, had fallen, not destroyed, but taken. The humans had seized control of the construction facilities and turned them against their former masters. This was no rebellion. This was an invasion. Admiral Voss stood on the command deck of the HSS Revenant, watching the displays as the shipyard churned out new vessels. Dominion designs were being repurposed, stripped of their old markings and rebuilt with human technology. Each captured ship would be reforged into a weapon against its former empire. Voss turned to Captain Lin. "How long before the first batch is combat ready?" 48 hours, she replied. "We're adapting their systems to human control, but we'll need more pilots." Voss nodded. They had stolen a shipyard, but manpower was still a problem. The Dominion had wiped out so many humans when Earth fell. Even with the hidden colonies, even with the resistance fighters joining their cause, they needed more. "We'll find them," he said, "and when we do, we won't just fight back. We'll burn the Dominion to the ground." But the Dominion would not wait for them to grow stronger. The High Command had been slow to react, but now their response was coming. A fleet had been assembled. An armada, larger than anything the humans had faced before. Thousands of Dominion warships were converging on the Ytheri system, determined to erase the insult of their defeat. The humans detected the incoming force long before it arrived. The enemy fleet was still days away, but its sheer size was undeniable. It was a hammer, moving with overwhelming force, ready to crush them. The officers aboard the HSS Revenant watched the data streams in silence. They had won 2 battles, but this was something else. Lin exhaled. "That's a lot of ships." Voss studied the numbers. The Dominion was throwing everything at them. No hesitation, no half measures. This wasn't a response. It was extermination. For the first time since the war began, the crew felt something creeping in, a whisper of doubt. The Dominion had underestimated them before, but now they were taking humanity seriously, and they had the numbers to prove it. But Voss did not flinch. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We aren't running." A stunned silence followed. Some of the officers exchanged glances. There were only so many dreadnoughts. Their ships were powerful, but outnumbered 10 to 1. Fighting the Dominion head-on in a battle of attrition was suicide. Lynn stepped closer. "Sir, you have a plan, right?" Voss smiled. "Of course." The Dominion expected a direct fight. They expected humans to panic, to dig in, to defend the shipyard like a desperate last stand. But that wasn't what Voss had in mind. "We're not defending Etheri," he said. "We're luring them in." The crew fell silent. Then slowly, understanding dawned. The Dominion fleet was too large, too cumbersome, too overconfident. They were coming in a tight formation, expecting to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. But if they were drawn in too deep, if they were forced into a bottleneck, they could be slaughtered. "Send orders to all ships," Voss said. "We execute Operation Hell's Gate." The fleet moved quickly, setting the trap. The shipyard systems were rigged with remote charges. Some of the captured Dominion ships were left operational, programmed to transmit false distress signals. The enemy would see a fleet in disarray, appearing vulnerable. And when they charged in, the gates of hell would close around them. The Dominion Armada arrived 3 days later. Their commanders saw what they expected, a scrambling human fleet, trying desperately to hold on to their prize. They charged forward, eager for the kill. And that was when the Dreadnoughts struck. The first wave of Dominion ships vanished in an instant, their hulls torn apart by hidden weapons platforms. The human fleet split apart, forming deadly kill zones that funneled the enemy into pre-planned traps. Dominion battleships found themselves unable to maneuver, their own ships blocking their escape routes. Then the explosives detonated. The shipyard, rigged with enough firepower to shatter moons, erupted. The shockwave ripped through the Dominion fleet, crushing their formation. And that was when the true slaughter began. Human dreadnoughts emerged from the chaos, their massive cannons firing into the disoriented enemy. Dominion vessels scrambled, trying to recover, but they had walked into a meat grinder. The battle was a massacre. By the time the Dominion realized their mistake, it was too late. Humanity had done more than just hold the line. They had turned the tide of the war. The Dominion had never known fear. For centuries, they had ruled the galaxy through fire and steel. Every species that had resisted was either broken or erased, their histories reduced to footnotes in the Dominion's endless expansion. Even Earth had been crushed, its people scattered, its world reduced to ash. And yet, the humans would not die. The massacre at Etheri had sent shockwaves through the Dominion. Their Grand Armada, an unstoppable force meant to wipe out the last remnants of humanity, had been annihilated. The few surviving ships limped back to Dominion space, their crews too stunned to speak. What had once been a war of conquest had become something else. It had become a hunt. And the humans were no longer the prey. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, watching the reports flood in. Dominion fleets were in chaos. High Command had ordered a total mobilization, but they were slow, struggling to recover from their devastating loss. Their forces were scattered, their supply lines overextended. It was time to strike. Captain Lynn approached, a grim smile on her face. "Our scouts confirm the Dominion's Third Fleet is regrouping at the Bellis outpost. They've got supply ships, refueling stations, everything they need to recover." Voss nodded. "And they think they're safe. They don't even have their shields up." The Dreadnought fleet had no intention of letting the Dominion recover. The human forces moved swiftly, dropping out of FTL at the edge of the Bellis system. The Dominion fleet was still repairing itself, its ships lined up in neat formations. They had no idea what was coming. The attack began in silence. Human vessels approached under stealth, their signatures masked by the wreckage of previous battles. When the first Dominion sensors detected them, it was already too late. Railguns thundered. Plasma beams lanced through the void. The first Dominion battleship vanished, its hull sheared apart by high-velocity slugs. Panic erupted. Dominion officers scrambled to react, their ships desperately powering up weapons and shields. But their formation had been built for resupply, not battle. They were sitting ducks. Human dreadnoughts cut through them like a knife through flesh. The once mighty Dominion Third Fleet was torn apart before it could even fire back. Lynn's voice crackled over the comms. "Admiral, their flagship is trying to escape." Voss turned his gaze to the massive Dominion warship at the edge of the battle, its engines burning hot as it fled toward hyperspace. A predator's smile crossed his face. No survivors. The HSS Revenant surged forward. The Dominion flagship's shields flared as human weapons slammed into them, the energy barriers struggling to hold. The vessel's captain desperately ordered a jump, but the Dreadnought's gravity weapons locked it in place. It was trapped. Voss gave the final order. A single kinetic round, traveling at a fraction of the speed of light, struck the Dominion flagship's reactor core. The explosion was blinding. When the light faded, nothing remained but debris. The Dominion's Third Fleet was gone. Humanity had shattered yet another Dominion force, and with it, the illusion of their invincibility. Across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. The fear spread faster. The Dominion had laughed at Earth's defeat, until now. Because now, they weren't just facing humans. They were facing something far worse. They were facing humanity's vengeance. The Dominion's arrogance had cost them dearly. They had believed humanity was finished, a species on the brink of extinction. But after Ethari, after Bellis, after the destruction of their Third Fleet, the truth could no longer be ignored. Humanity had not just survived. They had risen, stronger, deadlier, and filled with a fury that shook the stars. The Dominion's core worlds were now within reach. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, staring at the latest intelligence reports. Their raids had crippled the Dominion's outer defenses. Supply lines were shattered, strategic bases burned, and their once mighty fleets were forced into defensive positions. But that wasn't enough. Not for what was coming next. Captain Lynn stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "It's confirmed. The Dominion is pulling back. Their high command has issued a recall of all forces. They're fortifying their inner systems." Voss exhaled slowly. Then they know what's coming. And yet, knowing wasn't the same as stopping it. The humans were no longer fighting in the shadows. Their fleet had grown, bolstered by captured Dominion warships refitted with human technology. Their forces had doubled. The scattered remnants of Earth's colonies had united, joining under a single banner. And they were done hiding. The invasion of the Dominion homeworlds had begun. The fleet moved swiftly, dropping out of FTL just beyond the Varick defense line. A series of automated stations meant to guard the approach to the Dominion's capital worlds. It was a formidable defense, designed to repel entire armadas. It lasted less than an hour. The Dreadnought fleet punched through like a sledgehammer. Railguns shredded enemy stations before they could mount a defense. Dominion ships tried to regroup, but they were too slow. The humans outmaneuvered them, their precise strikes ripping through the enemy lines. Voss watched as the Dominion's vaunted defenses crumbled. The road to the Dominion's throne world was open, but the Dominion still had one last move to play. An emergency transmission cut through the battle noise. A message from the Dominion's supreme warlord himself. It was a single, desperate sentence. "We surrender." The bridge went silent. Lynn turned to Voss, her expression unreadable. "What do we do?" Voss didn't hesitate. "We keep going." Because there were some things the Dominion could never be forgiven for, and humanity would not stop until the war was truly over. The Dominion's homeworld, Zurich Prime, loomed ahead. It was a planet of towering spires, massive fortresses, and a fleet that had once ruled the stars. Now those defenses were all that remained between the Dominion and annihilation. Humanity had come for vengeance. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, watching as the last remnants of the Dominion's once mighty empire scrambled to defend their throne world. Their fleets were battered, their ships outnumbered, their defenses crumbling. And yet, they still fought. Voss understood. The Dominion had built itself on fear, on the belief that they were unstoppable, that no enemy could ever reach their core. To surrender now would mean admitting the truth, that they were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. Captain Lin's voice cut through the silence. "We're receiving another transmission from the Dominion's Supreme Warlord." Voss didn't even look away from the battle. "Let me guess. Another surrender." Lin hesitated. "No. It's a plea. He's offering everything. Their fleets, their resources, their colonies. He's begging us to let them live." For the first time in centuries, the Dominion was afraid. Voss let the silence stretch. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on this moment. Then, finally, he spoke. No mercy. The order was given. The Dreadnought fleet surged forward, railguns roaring, plasma lances carving through Dominion defenses. The enemy fought desperately, but it was futile. Their ships shattered under the relentless assault. Their orbital defenses were ripped apart. Their cities burned. Humanity did not stop. The Dominion had once laughed at Earth's defeat. They had celebrated as human worlds burned, as human children screamed. Now, the laughter was gone. Now, only terror remained. Voss watched as the final Dominion command ship tried to flee, its engines burning at full thrust. A single kinetic round from the Revenant ended it in an instant. A fireball lit the void. And with it, the Dominion died. Lin exhaled slowly. It's over. Voss looked down at the shattered world below. He could still hear the echoes of Earth's suffering, the memories of a war humanity never asked for, but one they had finished. He turned away. No. He stared out into the endless void of space. It's just the beginning.